Afternoon, everyone. My name is Dino Escan Sanchez from Group 1, and today I'm going to talk about economic globalization. So, what is economic globalization? So, when we say economic globalization, it is the flow of money, goods, and services across the country or around the world. Economic globalization can also be referred to as the increasing interdependence of world economies as a result of the growing scale of cross-border trades of commodities and services. So economic globalization happens when there is a process of import and export of products from one country to another country. So what is import and export? So when we say import, no, it is the process of moving or transporting product from another country into our own country. While on the other hand, export is the process of moving or uh, transporting out the product in our country from the Philippines to another country. That is import. That is export. Economic globalization had its beginning in 1896 and reached its peak in 1914. So, Sir, bakit siya tumigil in 1914? Economic globalization stopped in 1914 because that year also the World War One happened, making the economic develop making the development of economic globalization interrupted and disrupted. That's why it stopped in 1914. On that span of time from 1896 to 1914, it is called also the first wave of economic globalization. So why it is called first wave of economic globalization? It is called first wave of economic globalization because of the new development of product technologies and other things, that helps in creating something new because of the human due to the human because of the human innovation. So one of the result of first wave economic globalization that happened in that span of years is the advancement in transportation. No? So the advance in transportation, due to the human innovation, no? Human creates a train which is powered by steam, and that train also is dumadaan sa mga railroad or relays, no? And that way, the transport of goods and products from one place to another can be efficient and easier. No? Another is the telegraph and communication. That span of years also, human innovation create a telegraph and communication, creating a efficient way of communicating from people that is distance and away from us. Also, mass migration. One of the example is the in the Europe. Uh, Million of European migrate from their country to another country of the uh, because of the World War One that happened, and there is an conflict happened, and there is a lot of problem in the country. So in order to avoid the conflict and argument in that year, million of European migrate from another country to find a better opportunity and to stay long term. Now, due to the economic globalization, it all rooted, it all it became due to the human innovation. Human innovation create a scientific revolution and industrial revolution. So, what is scientific revolution? Scientific revolution, it means the advancement of scientific uh, knowledge and study, over the centuries, creating, due to the scientific progress, it creates a new development of technologies, new products, and new services that transform, our life to what it is today. On the other hand, industrial revolution, it is the period of significant economic, technological, and social change that happened in the late 18th century. It also can be marked, as the transition of from manual labor to the machine-based manufacturer. So no, so yung economic globalization does not only give advantage to the people, no, due to the efficient way of transporting goods. It also brings disadvantage because of the workers who is working from that factory or from that place, no, can lose their job because of the technology that exists. That is industrial revolution. So let's move on to the technological process. In the technological process, no, dito na human innovation create transportation such as yung mga tren, no, yung mga relays para yung transport of goods become a lot easier. Communication also, in order for the quick, no, on easier communication from distance people and the capital. Economic globalization can also be characterized, no, by the increasing integration of economies around the world through the movement of goods, services, and capital across borders. Yun nga, no, the process of economic globalization is through the import and export of products kasi alam natin yung country natin, no, or much more, yung lahat ng country doesn't have all the products that they have. No, so they try to import product from other country to us. No, so if we look, no, to our clothes na sinusuot natin, to our pants, bags, utilities, yung mga equipment and tools na nasa bahay, no, we can see or we can notice, no, that it is made from China or from the Vietnam, Taiwan, from the other country because those products are imported to our country because uh, maybe those products is much cheaper from them compared to us. That's why we try to have those products into us. So that is economic globalization. So financial globalization, increasing integration. So ano yung increasing integration? It is increased trade and supercomputer. So when you say increased trade, no, dito na yung bili, no? Pagbili ng mga products from other country to to us due to the increase of integration, no, madali na lang natin nakukuha or na nakikita o nalalaman yung mga bagay na meron yung iba na we need to us. Due to the supercomputer na may kakayahan na pabilisin yung daloy ng uh, pagbili at pagbenta ng mga bagay, no, we can have our product much easier. And also, high frequency trading, dito na yung million of stocks, purchases and sales between different cities in a matter of seconds. So grabe, no? In a matter of seconds. So yung pagbili ng mga products, yung mga bagay from between cities, no? For example, yung pagbili natin ng mga for example, yung mga tindera, bibili sila ng mga bagong pagkain, pabilihan para i-display sa kanilang tindahan, no? Due to the high frequency trading, kaya na nilang pumili ng mga products from pwede rin sa mga factory and sa mga mall, no, to the may mga malalaking tindahan sa cities. They can easily purchase it due to the high frequency trading na that can make our make transaction easier. Na lahat ng changes na to, no, is the product of people, gawa tayo ng mga tao, organization, institution, and technologies due to the advancement of scientific knowledge and technological progress and industrial revolution. Lahat ng mga nakita natin sa paligid natin is due to the human innovation. Lahat ay galing gawa ng tao. So kung kahit na isa lang scientific innovation is wala, or yung technological process ay wala, siguro ay lahat din ng meron tayo ngayon ay wala rin. Kasi mahina yung development kung wala yung scientific, technological, at saka yung industrial progress. So, ano yung global economic integration? Yung economic integration, it means separate production operation are functionally related to each other and form a unified products of service. So for example, yung United States of America, meron silang brand na iPhone which is yung kanila talaga, pero yung production is hindi sa kanilang bansa, kundi nasa China. Yung operasyon ng paggawa, yung manufacture is nasa China. Tapos meron silang mga parts na galing sa Amerika and doon nila ina-assemble sa China because China is a developing country. Gumagamit yung Amerika ng outsourcing which is due to may flow yung government nila, mababa yung mga labor, doon sila nagpapagawa or doon nila ina-assemble sa China yung mga product nila para mas mataas yung capital at yung profit. Mas mataas yung profit nila sa kanilang produkto na cellphone na iPhone. Doon ginagawa, doon ina-assemble sa China. Kaya kapag tinitingnan natin yung mga phone natin, makikita natin, no? Merong made in China, made in Taiwan, made in America, or saan ba yung lugar na produce siya. Lahat, no, this require efficient management of economic operation from different parts of the world. So, ibig sabihin, kailangan mayroong mga capable na tao, competent na tao na nagmamanage ng mga manufacturing operation nito para walang error or pagkakasala sa paggawa ng mga produkto. In current times, this is made possible by innovation and transports, logistic, modernization of communication and transport system, policy supporting integration of different process along the globe, and among others. So, in current times, no, madali na lang yung pagbenta ng mga produkto, especially yung mga product na nasa abroad, kasi meron na tayong madali na lang yung pag-transport. Merong mga ship na cargo, meron din na syempre yung mga motorcycle, yung motor ride, yung mga riders na meron tayo ngayon. So due to the social platform, ng mga online platform na pwede na tayong bumili, like Shopee, Lazada, Temu, kaya na nating bilhin ng mas mabilis at mas efficient yung mga product na malayo sa atin. And lahat ng yun ay produkto ng economic globalization, that is the fruits of the human innovation, the human progress, development. No, it is the proof of the development due to the human innovation and technological progress that creates the economic globalization to what it is today. So we are the current generation, the feel and also enjoy the benefits of the human innovation today.
So right now we're going to talk about problems arising due to economic development. First is poor nations and the people who inhabit them were and are subjugated by the operations of the global economy. So when people say that poor nations are subjugated, it is means to take control. So it is subjugated by the global economy, so it means that richer and more powerful countries control how money, trade, and business work in the world. So it means that poor countries often don't get a fair deal and they may have to follow the rules that was made by the rich countries, such as they have to sell their natural resources cheaply or borrow money with high interest. So this keeps them stuck in a cycle of being poor while rich countries keep getting richer. So if we think about farmers in the Philippines, many of them grow rice, bananas, or coconuts, but the prices of these crops are controlled by the global market. It is decided mostly by rich countries and big companies. So, for examples, is a Filipino farmer works. A Filipino farmer works hard to grow a bananas, but a big foreign company buys them for a very cheap price. So that company then sells the banana in richer countries such as US, Japan, or Korea for a much higher price. So what does this mean? So the farmer stays poor while the company earns a lot of profit. So the next one is not all parts of the world gain equally from the growth of the global economy. So when people say that not all parts of the world gain equally from the growth of a global economy, it means that some countries, especially the rich ones, became richer and more powerful, while other countries, especially the poor ones, did not benefit as much or even left behind in life. So, for example, in this is a job opportunities with foreign companies. So, for example, is big foreign companies set up factories or call centers in the Philippines because labor here is cheaper. The positive side of this is they give jobs to many Filipinos, but the negative side of this, the salary are still low compared to workers in richer countries. So the big profit mostly go back to the foreign companies and not to the Philippines. So the next one is within nations, the poor tend or tended to suffer most when those nations are forced to repay their debts to other and more developed nations. So for example of this is when the Philippines borrows money from a richer countries or big banks, it has to pay it back with the interest or extra money. So if the country struggles to pay, the government sometimes cut the budget spending on more important things like schools, hospitals, or housing so they can send money back to the lenders. So, of course, this affect poor people the most because we rely or we depend more on public service such as free education, healthcare, and free medical services. So the rich people can still afford private schools, hospitals, or homes, but the poor cannot. So the next one is the global economy was not equally good for everyone and was bad for many, said by Friedan. So this line from Friedan means that while the global economy has created growth, wealth, and opportunities for some countries and people, it has not benefited everyone equally. So there is inequality between rich and poor. Okay, the next one is the economic growth can widen the gap between rich and poor, both within and across nations, leading to a greater inequality. So, when people say that economic growth can widen the gap between rich and poor, so it means that the economy is growing, so it means more money, more business, and more jobs for people. But the rich usually gets richer faster than the poor. So the poor may get a little help but not enough to catch up. So there is a inequality or there is a gap between them that grows bigger. So it happens both between countries such as rich countries that benefit more than poor countries. And inside a country, rich people benefit more than poor people. So the last one is some nations become overly dependent on exports or foreign investment, making their economies unstable and vulnerable to global market shifts. So when a country relies so much on selling goods to other countries, or when we say exports, or on money from foreign companies, when we say investment, its economy becomes weak and unstable. Why? Because if something bad happens in the world market, like for example prices drop or investors leave, that country will suffer a lot since it depends too much on others instead of being strong on its own.
So, today we're going to discuss global economic structures, surplus, and deficit. And the first one is a good place to get a quick snapshot of global trade as well as net economic flows in and out of a nation state is by looking at its trade, surpluses, and deficit. So, if you want to quickly see how a country's economy is doing in terms of trade, you look at whether it has a surplus or earning more from exports or a deficit spending more on imports. So this gives an easy snapshot of how money flows into or out of the country. The next one is a trade surplus. A surplus in the balance of trade occurs when the value of countries' exports exceeds that of its imports. So trade surplus happens when a country sells or exports more goods and services to other countries than it buys or imports. So it usually means the country is earning more money from trade, which can help strengthen its economy. For example, China often has a trade surplus because it exports a huge amount of manufactured goods like electronics, clothing, and machinery, while importing less compared to its exports. And the next one is a trade deficit, also called a trade gap, occurs when imports exceed imports. So the trade deficit happens when a country buys or imports more goods and services than it sells or exports. It can mean that the country depends heavily on foreign goods, which might hurt local industry in the long run. However, it also means citizens have access to a wide variety of products. For example, the US usually has a trade deficit because it imports a lot of goods like cars, electronics, and clothing from other countries, especially from China, while exporting less. And the last one is of special interest and importance are the position of two global economic giants, the US and China. So China is known as the world factories. It produces and exports a massive amount of goods, leading to huge trade surpluses. And the US is the world's biggest consumer, importing vast amounts of goods, leading to large deficit. So their trade relationship is crucial because China earns a lot by exporting to the US, while the US depends on China goods for affordability and supply.
Bright morning. My topic for today is who are the actors that facilitate economic globalization? Globalization has opened the doors for other non-state authority and actors in driving economic globalization. Non-state actors include international economic organizations, private sector led by multinational companies, central banks, and civil society. It means that globalization is not solely driven by national governments, but also by various non governmental entities. Globalization has reduced barriers to international trade, investment, and communication, creating opportunities for non state actors to influence economic activity on a global scale. And that will be all. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. So, today we will be discussing the contribution of each actor to economic globalization. First is the International Economic Organizations or International Monetary Fund or IMF. World Bank and Organizations for Economic Cooperation and Development. So these organizations are critical in developing and pushing for neoliberal policies among different countries. They also help facilitate trade and development discussions among various states. So these organizations promote neoliberal policies that encourage open markets and free trade. They also they also provide financial assistance, policy guidance, and forums for global economic discussions. So when we say IMF, is the IMF provide emergency loan to other countries like Indonesia, Thailand, and South Korea. Not only there, but also for the Philippines. So while the OECD, it there's have a program for the student assessment. So it does not give loans, but you can provide a research, policy recommendations, and a platform for cooperations. So next is the regional organizations or Association of Southeast Asian Nations or ASEAN and the North American Free Trade Agreement or NAFTA. This organizing promotes a regional agreements and standards that facilitate a better trade exchange of knowledge, human resources, and the regional cooperations. So these groups strengthen economic ties among neighboring countries by creating trade agreement and regional standards. They also encourage cooperation in each areas such as labor, knowledge sharing, and investment. So when we say ASEAN, is they can promote economic integrations, reduce trade barriers, strengthen political and security cooperations, and support cultural and educational exchanges among Southeast Asian nations. While the NAFTA is they remove tariffs on goods traded between us, Canada, and Mexico to encourage cross border investment, create jobs, and allow the free flow of goods and services within the regions. So next one is multinational companies or MNCs. They are considered to be the main carriers of economic globalization. MNCs are the driving force of economic globalizations because they operate in multiple countries. They expand markets, transfer technology, and influence local economies through investment and employment. Like, for example, Coca Cola. They can spread products and services worldwide, creating a shared global consumer culture.
So the next one is the central banks. It is considered as one of the most powerful institutions in the world economy since they can lead economic development. Central bank is a main bank of a country that contributes the supply of money, manages interest rates, and keep the economy stable. It controls how much money is in use and keep the economy stable so that people and businesses can trust the value of money. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas or the BSP is the central bank of the Republic of the Philippines. It was established on July 3, 1993, pursuant to the provision of 1987 Philippine Constitution and the new Central Bank Act of 1993. Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas or the BSP took over from the Central Bank of the Philippines, which was established on January 3, 1949 as the country's central monetary authority. So BSP enjoys fiscal and administrative autonomy from the national government in its pursuit of its mandated responsibilities. So the last one is the global civil society as major driver of economic globalization. It has made its mark in global development arena, particularly during the UN Conference on Environment and Development in 1992. Global civil society is a worldwide network of people, groups, and organizations like NGOs, charities, advocacy groups, student movements, environmental groups, and etc. that works together across countries to solve global issues such as climate change, human rights, peace, and poverty. It is called civil because it is made up of citizens and groups outside of the government and business. So, in short, global civil society is people around the world working together to make the society better beyond borders and government.
Okay, so bright morning everyone. I am Rod Martala Cruz and I'll be discussing to you today the Wallenstein Modern World System. So I know all of us are very familiar in the word modern world. So some of you may say or talk about technologies, innovations, changes, internet and mainly the social media. However, are you all aware that our global economy is part of our modern world? Yes, It is not just about how technology helps us in our industry or agriculture, but also how could it be able to make profits around the globe because of modernization. Okay, so what does Wallenstein modern world system is all about? So Wallenstein or Immanuel Wallenstein modern world system theory is a sociological and historical approach to understanding global inequality and the development of capitalism as a global economic system. So later on, samtang gina-discuss naton, mabalaan naton later on kung ano ang modern world system. Okay, so what is modern world system? So the modern world system is also known as the modern capitalist world economy. It is a system which relies on economic power in the global arena. So when we say modern capitalist world economy, so it is characterized by the production and trade of goods and services in a free market where the means of production are predominantly privately owned and labor is compensated through wages. So the world system is a result of the increasing independence of cultures and ecosystem that were once relatively isolated by distance and boundaries. So this means that the modern world system has developed because cultures and ecosystems, which were once separated by physical distance and borders, have become more independent and self-sufficient over time. So, na-develop ang world system because of the barrier, which is the physical distance. But this independence has allowed them to maintain their unique identities while still being part of the globally connected system. So the world system is a largely self-contained system with a set of boundaries and a definable lifespan. It does not last forever. So it means that the world system is a complex self-sustaining structure with clear boundaries and a defined period of existence. So it implies that no world system is permanent and will eventually change or collapse over time. So there's a possibility nga ang world system is madula or kung hindi madula, ma-change siya because of our evolving world. So in the past, the system that binds the world together was based on political and military domination. So this means that the global system was maintained through the control and influence of powerful political and military forces, where dominant states or empires exerted authority over others. So ang naga-bind sang aton countries to be as one, sang una is ang aton nga is the powerful political and military forces. So I hope you've learned something in this presentation, and that would be all. Thank you so much.
Okay, bright afternoon, everyone. Now let's talk about the three-level hierarchy according to the concept from world system theory as it divides the nation rather, into three economic tiers based on their global influence and production capabilities. Okay, so the first one is the core. So this is the most dominant nation. It consists of the strongest and most powerful nations in which technologically advanced, capital intensive products are produced and exported to the semi periphery and periphery. So this economically dominant nation with advanced technology, high capital investment, and skilled labor, they produce and export high value goods like semiconductors, pharmaceuticals, and luxury cars. So one of the example is United States of America because they export tech like Microsoft and Apple. Also during the pandemic, they export Pfizer and aerospace product. Also Germany dominates in automotive, exporting BMW and Mercedes and other machinery exports. Japan also leads in electronics, like Sony and Toyota, and also in robotics. The next one is the semi-periphery, consists of industrialized third world nations that lack the power and economic dominance of the core nations, some were exploiting and exploited. So this emerging economies with mixed roles as they supply to the core with manufactured goods and extract materials from the periphery. So one of the example is China because China produce electronics like Huawei and machinery while relying on the raw material coming from Africa. Also Brazil. Brazil exports aircraft and agricultural goods like soybeans but imports high-tech equipment to make those products. And the last one is the periphery. So this is the least dominant nation, consists of nation whose economic activities are less mechanized and are primarily concerned with exporting raw materials and agricultural goods to the core and semi-periphery, mostly in African region. So these less industrialized nations providing raw materials like oil, minerals, and cheap labor to the core and semi-periphery. So one of the example is Nigeria because Nigeria exports crude oil while imports refined petroleum and machinery. Also Bangladesh exports or supply textiles like garments to the global brands like H&M and Zara. So periphery provides low-cost labor and raw material, often importing expensive finished goods from other nations. So that's it. That is the three level hierarchy according to the world system theory. So our country, the Philippines, occupies in a middle ground in semi-periphery level because it is not a core nation due to its reliance on foreign investment and its mid-tier exports, but it is more industrialized than periphery nation. Its trajectory towards becoming a tiger cub community highlights potential to upward mobility in the global system through structural challenges persist. Thank you for listening.